Don't enter that car." The woman screamed so loudly that the street froze. A poor, broken widow stood trembling, her hand raised in warning, her eyes filled with terror. People laughed. Some called her crazy. Others told the billionaire's daughter to ignore her. But seconds later, when the girl looked inside the car, she saw something so horrifying. It shattered her heart forever. Some warnings are not madness. Some screams are not lies. This is the story of a billionaire's daughter, who had wealth, power, and protection, yet stood one step away from disaster. And this is the story of a widow, who had lost everything, except the truth that destroyed her life. One car, one desperate warning, and a hidden secret that would expose a past soaked in pain, guilt, and blood. What the widow knew, the billionaire never wanted his daughter to discover. The sun was just peeking over the skyline of the city's wealthiest district, golden rays bouncing off the tall glass windows of mansions and luxury SUVs parked along the street. Birds chirped, unaware of the tension about to unfold on the quiet suburban lane. Lila Kensington, a young woman in her early 20s, stepped out of her father's towering mansion. Every inch of her screamed elegance. Her floral designer dress fluttered lightly in the morning breeze, her hair neatly pinned in a bun, and golden earrings glinting as she moved. She was the very image of a life carefully curated for perfection. Wealth, comfort, and power were her constant companions. Yet, today was different. Something inside her stomach twisted, an unshakable feeling of unease crawling beneath her otherwise polished composure. Across the street, hidden partially by the shadows of the parked SUVs, an elderly woman appeared. She was small, frail, her dark skin weathered by a lifetime of struggles. Her clothes were tattered and dirty, her hair messy and unkempt, and her hands trembled visibly as she stepped closer. There was urgency in her gait, a desperation that seemed to radiate from her very being. As Lila approached the black SUV parked in front of the mansion, the widow's voice cut through the morning calm like a knife. Don't enter that car," she cried, her hand raised as if to physically block Lila's path. Lila froze, her eyes widening. The voice was hoarse, but it carried an intensity she couldn't ignore. People walking along the sidewalk slowed down, some stopping to watch the strange scene unfold. "What is she doing?" one passerby whispered to another, smirking. "She's crazy," another said, shaking their head. Lila hesitated, unsure whether to laugh off the interruption or feel genuine fear. She had been raised to command attention, to dismiss any obstacle, and yet something about the widow's presence was different. There was no malice in her eyes, only raw terror and pleading. I'm telling you," the woman continued, stepping closer, "there's danger inside that car. You must not go near it." The words pierced through Lila's carefully constructed world. Her hand instinctively moved toward the door handle of the SUV, the one she had used countless times, thinking nothing could ever harm her. And then the widow's trembling hands reached out, as if to physically stop her, and the scene froze. For a moment, the world felt unreal. Time slowed. The air seemed heavier, saturated with tension that pressed down on everyone present. "Who are you?" Lila asked, her voice a mix of disbelief and annoyance. "Why are you stopping me?" I can't explain everything now," the woman gasped, tears streaming down her face. "But if you enter that car, you will regret it. You will." She choked on her words, shivering violently, before catching herself and staring directly into Lila's eyes. "Please, just listen. Don't enter that car." Lila's heart raced. She was confused, scared, and strangely drawn toward the woman's desperation. Her mind flickered to her father, a powerful man who had taught her that fear was nothing more than a tool to control others. Yet, this fear was different. It was genuine, palpable, and entirely alien to the world she knew. The crowd that had gathered began to murmur. "Isn't this the billionaire's daughter?" one person whispered. "Why is she listening to some old beggar?" But Lila didn't hear them. All she could focus on was the woman's terrified gaze, the trembling hands, and the strange, unshakable feeling of dread crawling up her spine. For a moment, She thought of ignoring her, stepping over the warning and entering the SUV as she had countless times before. But a tiny voice inside her whispered, maybe she's telling the truth. And then she noticed something. The widow's eyes weren't just fearful, they were filled with pain, regret, and a history of loss so deep that even Lila's privileged heart ached. At the sight, the driver inside the black SUV shifted in his seat, his dark suit impeccable, his expression tight, tense, eyes scanning the street. He noticed the standoff, and for a fleeting second, his gaze met the widow's. There was a subtle exchange, a warning, a recognition of danger, but it was over almost immediately as he turned back toward the steering wheel. Lila's hand hovered over the door handle. The SUV gleamed in the morning sunlight, reflecting her own image back at her, but something was off. Something darker lurked inside that polished exterior. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded, her voice trembling slightly despite her efforts to remain composed. "What's going to happen?" The widow's lips quivered. You don't know the half of it. That car, it holds a secret. Something that could destroy you, your family, everything you love. Please, just listen. Don't enter it." Her words hung in the air, heavy with weight, almost too much for Lila to comprehend. Her mind raced through every possible scenario. Was this some crazy woman looking for attention? Or was this a genuine warning? Her heart thumped faster as the tension mounted. The street was quiet now except for the widow's voice and the distant hum of the city waking up. Every instinct screamed at Lila to step back, to pause, to consider. And yet, pride and curiosity tugged at her. She had been trained to face the world head-on, to never retreat, to always seek the truth. But as she stared at the widow, a strange sensation, fear mixed with awe, settled in her chest. It was in that moment that a memory flashed in her mind. A memory she had long buried, the sound of her mother's voice, calm yet firm, warning her about strangers, about unseen dangers. Lila, always trust your instincts. Not everything that glitters is gold. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had spent her entire life surrounded by gold, by power, by luxury, yet for the first time, she felt genuinely vulnerable. Lila's hand trembled as it hovered above the SUV's door handle. She wanted to move, to confront whatever waited inside. But the widow's eyes bore into her soul, silent yet screaming, pleading for her to stop. And in that frozen, heavy moment, Lila realized one undeniable truth. This wasn't just a warning. It was a lifeline. A lifeline she wasn't sure she could or wanted to ignore. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the street, but nothing seemed to move. The black SUV waited, ominous and gleaming, a symbol of the unknown danger lurking inside. Lila's mind raced. The crowd watched, unaware that they were spectators to a moment that could change a life forever. The widow took a shaky step forward. "Please, just don't enter the car, not yet, not ever." Lila swallowed hard, her chest tight, and for the first time, she felt the real weight of fear, not the fake, controlled kind she had always known, but true, visceral fear that spoke of danger, secrets, and heartbreak. And in that instant, she understood, some warnings aren't meant to be ignored. Some voices, no matter how fragile, poor, or broken, carry truths that even the wealthiest cannot escape. As Lila's hand finally touched the SUV's polished handle, her vision blurred for a second. In the reflection, she saw something, or someone, that made her blood run cold. A shadow moved inside the SUV. Not the driver. Not anyone she knew. Something else, lurking, waiting. And then she heard it, soft, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. A whisper. "If you enter, you will lose everything." Lila's hand froze on the gleaming door handle of the black SUV. For a fraction of a second, she felt the world tilt beneath her feet, the sun, the shadows, the murmuring crowd, all blurred into one chaotic haze. Then, almost instinctively, she stepped back, shaking her head, her pulse pounding. The widow's terrified eyes never left her. You listened," the old woman whispered, a mixture of relief and fear etched across her face. Good, but it's not safe yet. You must understand. Lila's mind raced. Understand what? She had always believed in clarity, in knowing the rules of every game, the structure of every world she inhabited. But this was nothing she had prepared for. She took a cautious step closer, her voice trembling. Then tell me. Please, tell me what's going on. Why is it so dangerous? The widow let out a shuddering breath, lowering her hand. Her eyes glistened with tears that caught the morning light. It's not just a car. It's a trap. A trap built from greed, power, and betrayal. You must promise me, Lila. Promise me you'll listen carefully. Lila's stomach nodded. I promise. The widow nodded solemnly. Many years ago, before your father, before you were born, I had someone I loved. My husband. He trusted a man, a powerful man, much like your father. And that man, that car, destroyed everything I had. Her voice broke, and she turned slightly away, clutching the folds of her tattered shawl. I lost him. My life, my home, everything. But I survived because I learned to see the truth hidden behind luxury, behind appearances. That car, it isn't what it seems. It carries secrets that no one should ever know. Lila's eyes widened. She had grown up in a world where cars, villas, and power symbolized safety. And yet, here she was, confronted with the realization that her own world, her perfect, polished life, was far more fragile than she had ever imagined. What kind of secrets? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. The widow. Gaze hardened. Secrets of betrayal, murder, deceit. That car has carried people who were meant to die quietly, their fates hidden behind wealth and influence. And today, it's your turn to be near it. You must understand that some dangers hide behind the shine of gold and steel. And this car is one of them. Lila's chest tightened. She glanced at the SUV again, noticing details she had ignored before, the way the tinted windows swallowed the light, the way the polished black surface reflected not just her face, but shadows that seemed to move independently. Inside, the driver shifted, alert as ever. But there was something she hadn't noticed before, a shadow in the back seat, something that didn't belong. Her heart raced uncontrollably. I need to see, she said, almost automatically, her curiosity overriding her fear. The widow shook her head violently. No, not yet. You don't understand. You must wait until you're ready. If you see it before you're ready, you will never be the same. And worse, it could destroy everything you love. The word destroy hit her like a hammer. Lila had seen destruction before, not the kind that shattered walls or cars, but the kind that shattered lives, families, hearts. And she realized, with a cold clarity, that this warning was not idle. She looked back at the crowd. Some were staring, intrigued by the drama. Others were whispering, judging, laughing. But for the first time, Lila felt completely alone, completely vulnerable, completely aware that the world she had known might not protect her. Her gaze returned to the widow. Then, help me understand. Tell me everything. I want to see the truth, even if it hurts. The old woman nodded slowly. Very well. But you must promise me something. No one can know. Your father, no one in your family, must not see this. You must face the truth alone. Lila nodded. I understand. The widow's eyes softened slightly, a flicker of hope cutting through her fear. Good. Then listen carefully. Many years ago, that very car, this design, this make, it carried the people who betrayed me most. They thought no one would notice. They thought the wealthy could hide anything. But I saw. And I survived to tell the story. Lila's hands trembled. Who betrayed you? The widow took a deep, shuddering breath. Your father's predecessor. The man who owned power before him. He used wealth to cover the truth. That car, it's not just steel and glass. It is a vessel of lies, deceit, and death. Her words made Lila's skin crawl. The crowd faded further from her awareness, replaced by a horrifying, vivid image in her mind. A luxury vehicle, perfectly polished, carrying secrets that no one could ever see, until now. The widow continued, her voice gaining strength despite her frailty. And now, history is repeating itself. That car, it has been prepared for someone like you. Someone in your position. Someone who trusts the shine of wealth over the truth beneath it. That is why I stopped you. That is why I screamed. That is why you must listen. Lila's pulse raced. She felt a dizzying mixture of fear, anger, and awe. Her entire life had been about control. Her wealth gave her power over everything, or so she thought. And yet here she was, powerless, standing on the street, staring at a black SUV that might carry horrors she couldn't even imagine. "What do I do?" she whispered. "How do I survive?" The widow looked deeply into her eyes. "You survive by seeing, by understanding, by remembering that appearances can lie, and by trusting instincts that even the richest cannot buy. If you step into that car without seeing, without knowing, you will become a part of a story you cannot escape." Lila swallowed hard. Her mind flashed to the back seat, the shadow she had glimpsed before. She realized that fear alone wasn't enough to stop her curiosity, but neither was recklessness an option. The widow's voice softened, almost a whisper. "If you choose to enter, you must. Be ready. If not, step back. Live. And do not trust the glitter. The glitter hides danger." For a long moment, silence fell. The street felt frozen in time. The SUV gleamed in the morning sun, a black monolith of steel and secrets. The driver's eyes were fixed on Lila, watching her carefully. The widow's hands were trembling, her body leaning forward slightly, as if she wanted to physically pull Lila away from the car. And then, as if a sudden wind had passed through the street, Lila felt her hand tighten on the handle. Her mind screamed to retreat, to ignore curiosity, to run, but a deeper, more insistent urge pulled her forward. The shadow in the back seat shifted again. Lila's breath caught in her throat. She glimpsed a figure, not quite human, not entirely visible, something hidden by darkness and tinted glass. Her heart pounded. She realized, with a sickening clarity, that the widow's warning was not exaggerated. The danger was real. "You don't understand," the widow whispered, tears streaking her face. "They are waiting. Inside. For you. And for those you love." Lila's stomach turned. She felt a cold shiver run down her spine. The car, once a symbol of comfort, had become a harbinger of terror. And in that moment, she understood something she had never truly realized before. Wealth and power could not shield her from evil. Her fingers hovered over the handle. The air felt heavier, almost viscous with suspense. Every instinct in her body screamed to flee. Every lesson her father had taught her about control and dominance seemed useless in the face of this unknown. Then a sudden movement inside the SUV. The shadow shifted closer, and the faintest whisper came through the glass. "If you enter, you will lose everything, and no one will save you." Lila stepped back, trembling. Her mind was flooded with fear, confusion, and the undeniable pull of curiosity. The widow reached out, gripping her arm. "Promise me," she pleaded. "Promise me you will listen to me fully. Before you touch that car again. Promise me, or everything will be lost." Lila's lips quivered. She nodded slowly, barely able to speak. I promise." The widow exhaled, a mix of relief and lingering fear. "Good. Now, I will tell you the story of that car, of the people who used it, and the tragedy that followed. Only by knowing the truth can you survive." And as Lila listened, standing frozen on the quiet suburban street, she realized with dawning horror that the world she had trusted, her life of comfort, privilege, and control, was about to be shattered, piece by piece. The widow's voice trembled as she revealed the first secret. The car had been used in a deadly betrayal years ago, and the person who orchestrated it was someone Lila had trusted her entire life. A shadow moved in the SUV again. Lila's eyes widened. She knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The street felt unnaturally quiet. No horns. No footsteps. No whispers. Just the black luxury SUV sitting there like a silent predator, waiting. Lila Kensington stood frozen beside the car, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure everyone around could hear it. The widow's trembling hand still clutched her arm, as if letting go would mean losing her forever. "You promised," the widow whispered again, her voice barely audible. "You promised you would listen." Lila swallowed hard and nodded. Her throat felt dry, her chest tight. "I'm listening," she said softly. "Tell me everything." The old woman slowly released her grip and took a shaky step back. Her eyes drifted toward the SUV, not with fear alone, but with something deeper. "Hatred. Pain. Memory. That car," she began, her voice shaking, "is not new to me." Lila frowned. "What do you mean?" "I have seen it before," the widow said. "Not this exact one, but the same model. The same color. The same silence." She closed her eyes. "And the same lies." The past begins to surface. 22 years ago, the widow said, I was not standing on the streets begging strangers to listen to me. Lila felt her breath catch. "I had a home. A small one, but warm. I had a husband who loved me more than his own life. And I had dreams." Her voice cracked. "My husband worked as a private driver." Lila's eyes widened slightly. "A driver?" The widow nodded slowly. "For powerful people. Rich people. Dangerous people." The word dangerous echoed in the air. "He was loyal," she continued. "Too loyal. He believed that serving the wealthy honestly would protect us. That power rewarded obedience." A bitter smile touched her lips. He was wrong. Lila felt a chill crawl up her spine. One night, the widow said, he was told to drive a black luxury SUV. Late. Very late. No questions allowed. She pointed at the car. "Just like this one." Lila turned her gaze toward the SUV. For the first time, it didn't look like transportation. It looked like a coffin on wheels. The night that changed everything. It was raining, the widow said. Heavy rain. The kind that erases footprints and washes blood into the drains. Lila's heart skipped. "My husband never came home that night." The widow's voice trembled, but she didn't stop. By morning, the newspapers said there had been an accident. A drunk driver. No witnesses. Case closed. Her eyes filled with tears. "But I knew my husband. He never drank. Never. And he was too careful to crash." Lila whispered, "What really happened?" The widow opened her eyes. "He saw something." Lila felt dizzy. "Saw what?" "Something he was never meant to see," the widow replied. "Something inside the car. Something powerful men would kill to hide." The air grew heavy. "He tried to run," she continued. "Tried to tell me. He called me that night." His voice was shaking. The widow's lips quivered as she mimicked his words. "If anything happens to me, remember the car." Lila's hands curled into fists. "They killed him," the widow said flatly. "And they made it look like nothing." The truth about the car. Lila stared at the SUV again. "What does this have to do with me?" she asked, her voice barely steady. The widow looked at her with unbearable sadness. "Because that car has returned." Lila's heart slammed against her ribs. "Your father," the widow continued slowly, "recently acquired old assets. Old companies. Old vehicles." Lila shook her head. "That's impossible. My father is a good man," the widow interrupted softly. Silence. "I believed that once," the widow said. "I believed powerful men could still be human." She gestured toward the SUV. "That car is being used again. To transport things that cannot be spoken of. Documents. People. Secrets." Lila felt sick, and today, the widow whispered, "You were supposed to be inside it." The driver's reaction. Inside the SUV, the driver tightened his grip on the steering wheel. His jaw clenched. Lila noticed it. She took a step closer to the window. "Is this true?" she demanded, her voice sharp. The driver didn't answer. His silence was louder than any confession. The widow inhaled sharply. "He knows," she said. "He knows exactly what this car carries." Lila felt anger rise in her chest. "Open the back door," she said firmly. The widow gasped. "No." But it was too late. Lila reached for the handle. The moment her fingers touched it, A wave of nausea washed over her. Images flooded her mind. Darkness. Metal. Whispers. She staggered back. The widow caught her just in time. "You felt it," the widow whispered. "Didn't you?" Lila nodded, shaking. "There's something wrong," she said. "Something evil." The widow's eyes filled with tears. "That is why I stopped you." The final revelation. "There is one more thing," the widow said quietly. Lila looked at her. "What?" The widow hesitated, then spoke. "The man who ordered my husband's death." Lila held her breath. "Was not your father." Relief flickered in Lila's eyes. "But," the widow continued, her voice breaking, "your father knows." The relief shattered. "He knows everything," the widow said. "And he chose silence." Lila felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. "No," she whispered. "He wouldn't." "He already has," the widow replied gently. "By letting that car exist." Tears streamed down Lila's face. Her entire life flashed before her: wealth, comfort, protection. All built on silence. On buried truths. The choice. "You have a choice," the widow said. Lila wiped her tears. "What choice?" "You can walk away," she said. "Forget me. Forget this warning. Enter the car another day." She stepped closer. "Or you can destroy everything that protects you and uncover the truth." Lila looked at the SUV. Then at the widow. Then at her trembling hands. "I won't enter the car," she said. The widow exhaled, relief flooding her face. "But," Lila added, her voice steadying, "I won't stay silent either." The widow's eyes widened. Lila straightened her posture. "If this car has ruined lives, it ends now." The driver's eyes darted nervously. Lila met his gaze. "Tell my father," she said coldly, "I'm not getting in." The widow stepped back, tears streaming freely now. "You've chosen the harder path," she said. Lila nodded. "But the right one." The SUV's engine remained off. The streets slowly returned to life. But nothing inside Lila would ever be the same again. As she walked away, the widow whispered, "This was only the beginning." Lila didn't look back. She already knew.